You know that friend who always seemed like a mini adult even when they were 7? The one who was making their own doctor's appointments at 12 while you were still asking your mom to order for you at restaurants? Yeah, we need to talk about that kid. Because behind that mature exterior, there's usually a story that's not quite as put together as it seems. Here's the thing about children who grow up too fast. They didn't really choose to. Nobody wakes up at 8 years old and thinks, you know what? I'm going to skip childhood and go straight to adulting. But life has this funny way of throwing curveballs, and some kids end up catching them way before they should. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a 10-year-old girl named Sarah. While her classmates are worried about who's going to be it, during recess, Sarah's at home calculating whether the grocery budget can stretch to cover both milk and bread this week. She's reading bills like they're homework assignments, and when her mom comes home exhausted from working 2 jobs, Sarah's already got dinner started. Because she figured out how to use the stove by watching YouTube videos. Impressive, right? Sure, heartbreaking? Absolutely. This is what psychologists call parentification, and it's more common than you'd think. It happens when a child takes on adult responsibilities way before they're developmentally ready. Maybe they're translating documents for immigrant parents, mediating conflicts between adults, or raising their younger siblings because the actual parents are physically or emotionally checked out. Now, you might be thinking, well, responsibility is good. It builds character. And you're not entirely wrong. But here's where it gets complicated. There's a massive difference between age-appropriate responsibility, like doing your chores or homework, and carrying the emotional or financial weight of an entire household before you've even hit puberty. Kids who grow up too fast often become masters of reading the room. They develop this almost supernatural ability to sense mood shifts in adults. It's like they've got emotional radar constantly scanning for danger. Little Tommy can tell you're having a bad day before you've even realized it yourself. Sounds like a superpower, right? Except it's exhausting. These kids are constantly in survival mode. Hypervigilant, always preparing for the next crisis. And here's the kicker. They usually look fine. Better than fine, actually. They're the responsible ones. The mature for their age kids that teachers love. They get praised for being so independent, so capable. But what people don't see is that behind closed doors, these kids never learned how to just be kids. They never got the memo that it's okay to be messy, to make mistakes, to rely on someone else. Fast forward 20 years, and you've got an adult who struggles with things that seem basic to everyone else. They can handle a work crisis like a pro, no problem. But asking for help, showing vulnerability, admitting they're overwhelmed, that's like asking them to speak Martian. I knew this guy in college, let's call him David. By 19, he'd already lived a dozen lifetimes. He'd been his family's therapist since middle school, managing his parents' explosive fights and his sister's anxiety. The guy could negotiate peace treaties and organize an entire move by himself. But you know what he couldn't do? Relax. He couldn't watch a movie without mentally planning the next 3 days. He couldn't enjoy a party without feeling guilty for not being productive. Fun felt wrong. That's the hidden price tag of growing up too fast. These individuals often carry this deep-seated belief that their worth is tied to their usefulness. If they're not solving problems or taking care of someone, who even are they? They've skipped the developmental stage where you're supposed to learn that you're valuable just for existing, not for what you can do for others. And relationships? Oh boy. Imagine trying to build healthy relationships when your entire childhood was about managing everyone else's emotions. Some of these adults become serial fixers. They're attracted to broken people because that feels familiar, comfortable even. Others swing the complete opposite direction and become so fiercely independent that letting anyone in feels like a threat to their survival. The workplace is another interesting arena. Adults who grew up too fast often become workaholics. They're the first ones in, last ones out. They'll take on everyone's projects, never say no, and slowly burn themselves into the ground because rest feels irresponsible. Meanwhile, everyone's calling them ambitious and driven, not realizing they're watching someone slowly drown in their need to prove their worth. But here's what's really fascinating from a psychological perspective, the brain development angle. Our brains aren't fully cooked until our mid-20s. The prefrontal cortex, which handles decision-making and impulse control, is literally still under construction during childhood. When kids are forced into adult roles prematurely, they're using developing hardware to run advanced software. Something's gotta give. These children often miss out on crucial developmental milestones. Play isn't just fun. It's how kids learn to regulate emotions, develop creativity, and build social skills. When you skip that and jump straight to survival mode, you're building a house without a foundation. It might stand for a while, but there are going to be cracks. Now, if you're reading this and thinking, oh no, this is me, take a breath. Awareness is the first step. Lots of adults who grew up too fast find healing through therapy. Through slowly learning that it's okay to set boundaries, to say no, to prioritize their own needs without drowning in guilt. It's about giving yourself permission to have the childhood you didn't get. No, you can't literally go back in time, but you can learn to play, to be spontaneous, to trust that the world won't fall apart if you're not holding it together every second. And if you know someone who grew up too fast, here's your reminder. That super responsible, always put together person in your life might be carrying more than you realize. Sometimes the strongest looking people are the ones who never learned they're allowed to lean on someone else. Growing up is hard enough when you get to do it at the right pace. Doing it in fast forward, that leaves marks. But understanding those marks, where they came from, and why they're there, that's where healing begins.